Good morning, everyone, and you're welcome once again to today's program. My name is Princess Eruna Indo, and I'm the coordinator for American Kana Adoba at Mobile Web Ghana. American Spaces provides access to current and reliable information about the United States through its book collections, internet access, events, and activities for everyone. Today, we are discussing a very interesting topic, which is simple tools for data visualization. This is going to be facilitated by Genius Nyabo, a journalist from City FM and a coordinator at iJournal Africa. During this session, please type all your comments or questions in the comments box below, and they will be addressed. Thank you all for staying with us, and now I'll turn this over to Jonas. Hi,
Thank you very
Jonas.
much. Hi, Princess. Thank you very much. And because this is our first meeting this year, Happy New Year to you and then everyone as well. Today's presentation, like you said, we are looking at simple tools for data visualization. And we have already sort of had a bit of introduction into the subject of data journalism, data visualization. And from the last presentation or the last discussion, we ended at a point where we're talking about the different styles that are used for visualization. We've already talked in detail about data and what data is, and we've talked about the style. Today, we are going to focus more on the software and then do a bit of hands-on demonstration on how we gather data and then how we can use them for our visualization. So I'll just skip some of the slides, most of the slides that those we've discussed in our previous conversation, and then focus on what we'll be talking about today. So let me just skip these. All right. So today, like I said, the focus is on the softwares. So when it comes to the softwares, we know that the softwares are actually the power behind the visualization. They actually empower whatever data we've gathered to do the work in a way that that makes it captivating. That makes it captivating. And there are various options for the softwares. We have the online applications, and then we also have the offline applications. So for the online applications, we have some examples like Canva, we have PictoCharts, we have Venngage, we have Tableau, we have Flourish. All these are sample softwares. This list is not exhaustive. There are so many other ones that you can find online. For also offline applications, you can use PowerPoint, you can use Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator as well for your visualization. So there are pros and cons for each of them. Some of the common ones, as mentioned in the previous presentation, is that the online applications are easy to embed. Your visualization automatically reflect in your software if you are using an online application. And also, it's also quite easy to correct errors when it comes to the online applications. Now, for the challenges often will do with internet connectivity. So if you have challenges with your internet, it makes it a bit difficult if you are working with online applications. For the offline applications, the good thing about this is that you do not require internet, so that is often the good part. The challenges sometimes is that you manually have to upload your work on the website or on the application you want to put it on. All right, so there are two main or two broad categories when it comes to visualization. One would be the interactive visualization or the interactive infographics, and then we also have the static ones. So the interactive ones are those that allow you, that sort of gives you the opportunity to interact with the data, as the name suggests. So by this, we mean that you find some examples where if you hover your mouse or your cursor around the data, you are able to get extra information. So if it's, for instance, if it's a graph, for instance, if you hover your mouse around maybe a particular point, you're able to see maybe the corresponding data or value that goes with that particular point. The static ones, usually there's no interaction. It's just as you see it. It's more like an image that you see, and what you see is exactly what you get. Interactive gives you more information as you play around with it. Okay, so we'll go to some of these websites or some of these resources, and then we'll just see how they look. We'll settle on one of them for our practical demonstration before the end of today's session. So I'll change my screen, I'll my browser, we can visit all these 5 websites or 5 common websites that you can use for your visualization, so we can have a general or a fair idea of how they look if you are to use them outside today's presentation. So I'll just change my screen briefly, and then we can move on to the accessing these things on our various computers. All right, so let me just switch to my browser. Like Princess said, if you have some questions, you can do well to leave them in the comment box. I'll try very hard to address them at the end of today's presentation. So first on our list is
Hello, Jonas, please, you are on mute. Can you please unmute? Hello, Jonas. Hi, everyone. So
So
as
we are
we wait, okay, so Jonas, are you back now? Okay, so as we wait for Jonas, there's a little technical hitch. And so as we wait for Jonas to work on that, I just want to introduce you to an online resource, which is called the
um,
Sorry for the technical hitches. Jonas will be joining us soon. So I'll introduce us to an amazing resource. And this is called the ELibrary USA. The ELibrary USA is the state-of-the-art digital premier library, which is an electronic basis that includes digital newspapers, magazines, journals, videos, and dissertations for everyone. And so usually this resource is only available to use in person at American spaces. But with the global pandemic, we are opening up access to this amazing resource. So if you are interested, you should sign up through the link that will be shared in the comment section, and you would have access to this amazing resource. And so I think now Jonas should. Hello, Jonas. Please hold on as we are waiting for Jonas to resolve this technical issue. So do share your questions or your experience of using some of the tools that Jonas has started. With the Canva, for example, you could share your comments in the chat session. So Jonas will be sharing his slides soon so that we could continue with the discussion. Yeah, Jonas, so over to you.
Yes, sorry about the disruption. So we were talking about Canva, and I started by talking about how the homepage looks like. And we said from our previous discussion, if you want to work on an infographic and you are certain of the style you want to use, for instance, if in this case we are looking at a timeline, you can just type it in the search box on the Canva homepage, and then it gives you some samples you can work with. So through that sample, you can find those that are free and then those that are paid for. So for the purposes of this class, let's just pick one of the samples. That is a free samples to work with. So I choose the first one. It will display that sample, and then based on what you want to do, you can decide to customize it to suit your need. Because it's free, it will typically be very basic that you can work with. So let's take this particular one. So this one is talking about a brief history of volleyball, for instance. So if you want to customize, for instance, let's start with the text. I can change this to a brief history of Ghana, and then change the text here and start from 1940 all the way to 1957. And then start writing the history there. And the good thing is that you can also import in elements, other elements or other images into your design to make them a bit more colorful or to add a bit more visuals to it. So as Canva is, you can easily search for anything. So let's just say map or something, and then you can do a drag and drop over your visualization. And then as part of the customization effort, you can resize this and then put it somewhere in the work that you are doing. So that's how easy it is. Because of time, let's move to the second one, which is Pic2Chat. Let's just look at how Pic2Chat looks like. And the website for that is pic2chat.com. Pic2chat.com. I think there's a case somewhere. Okay. Pic2chat.com. So of course, like a lot of the online-based application, you have to sign in, you need an account. So with a typical Gmail or Yahoo Mail, you'll be able to create an account to be able to go about it. I haven't logged in here yet. So let's just go to the move one. Venngage is also an example, Tableau, and then Flourish. So I'm sure for the purposes of time, because of the disruption in the network, we would want to skip a number of them and then move to the other resources. So we'll be dealing more with Flourish subsequently. That's what we'll be dealing more with. But there are a few other small tools that I want to introduce this class to. And examples, let me go back to my presentation, would be these tiny tools that you can often use to make your presentation or to make your visualizations. Some of these tools are, because I know that often the data that we use in our work would either be in an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, or it could be in a PDF document. So you usually want to extract that information to use for your presentation. And as a data journalist or someone who is interested in visualizing data, especially those that are quantitative, Excel will be your friend because you have a lot of work to do using Excel. So some of these important tools that I'll talk about, these tools specifically are tools for scraping data from whatever document you are given. So the first one is I Love PDF. We also have Small PDF. We have Comet Docs. We have Tabula, and then we have Scraper, which is my favorite, which is a Google Chrome extension. So what do these tools do? So I Love PDF, for instance, is almost like a one-stop shop for everything PDF. So with this, you are able to convert a PDF document to Word document. You can convert PDF to a JPEG, an image. You can convert it from everything. You can merge PDF files and things like that. So it's very necessary for you, especially often I use this to convert from PDF to Excel, because if you have your data in PDF and you want to convert it or take it into Excel to manipulate it a bit further, it will be very useful. Small PDF also does a similar thing. Comet Docs, same, offering the same service, and then we have Tabula as well. Scraper works a bit differently. Scraper, it's an extension of, it comes as an extension of Google Chrome. So what it does is that it helps you to pick data from any website or most websites, and you can easily paste that in your Excel sheet or Google Sheets for whatever work you'll be working on. So let's just do a demonstration of how, for instance, the Scraper looks like, and then we'll also look at how I Love PDF also looks like. So for instance, let me just move back to my browser, and let's see how I Love PDF works. So I Love PDF. I Love PDF. Let's see how it looks. So I Love PDF, like I said, gives you almost everything that you would want to do with a PDF. So like I said, merge PDF, split PDF, compress PDF, convert from PDF to Word, PDF to PowerPoint, PDF to Excel, vice versa. You have all these options for you when it comes to working with PDF. It's a very useful tool, especially if you are heavy on doing data work that has to do with quantitative data with set values. So this is how it looks like. Let's say I don't know if I have a PDF I can work with. Let's see. Okay. So as I've opened the browser, I can decide to select a PDF file. Let's see, there's a PDF file you can access. So this is let's say this is a police statement. So let's see how this works in terms of converting from PDF into Word. So I have uploaded the PDF file I want to convert to Word. It just comes by a click of a button, converting from PDF to Word. And then there you go. Now you can download the Word document, and then you have access to your file. So it's simply converted into a Word document for you to easily use. So this is how it looks like. It was a full PDF file, but in this way, it means that you can easily edit and then do whatever changes you have to make to it. So that's for the I Love PDF part. So let's look at the Google Chrome extension, the extension I talked about. which is the scraper tool. So the scraper tool, like I said, is very necessary if you are scraping quantitative data from a website. If you are converting that, you are extracting that into a Word document. So let's see how it looks. So first of all, you have to go into your browser, your Google Chrome browser. So the thing about the scraper tool is that it works very well, or it works mostly with the Google Chrome browser, because that's what it's meant for. So you go to your Google Chrome browser, then you can easily search for the scraper extension. Scraper extension. So it's just this tiny extension you can add to your Google Chrome browser to help you perform very simple tasks. So this is the scraper tool. I think that was the first result in the search box. So when you open that, it comes with the tool. You can easily you just add it to your Chrome browser, add extension, and then basically that is all you need to do after you add it to your browser. The next thing is that, for instance, and I just want to demonstrate how this extension is used. So if you want to, if you access the website, you only need to highlight what you want to copy, and then you paste it into your Excel file. So let's just do a demonstration. So I want to access a data on GDP for African countries, and access this information on the Wikipedia page. So Wikipedia has neatly arranged that in a table. So what the scraper tool does is that, because it looks like a table and this is a relevant data you need, you can highlight just a portion of it. And then through the scraper tool, as you can see, you right click and you see the scrape similar. So if you scrape similar, you just open a dialog box. It will give you a preview of what it looks like that you want to copy over here to my right. And then you can paste that into your Excel sheet. So you come to copy to clipboard, and then you access your Excel sheet, and then you can drop it there. Script similar. And take. So as you can see, the preview is showed in the right side of the screen. So you copy to clipboard, and then we can go to our Excel sheet, and then we can simply right click and then paste. And then you have everything displayed there as expected: the rank, country, nominal GDP, and then nominal GDP per capita as showed in the file. So it copies everything. And like I said, the good thing about it is that it has neatly displayed it here. So you can do whatever manipulation you want to do with it, whether you need the total, the sum of everything, or you want to arrange it in ascending or descending order as well. You can do that because you simply brought it into the Excel document. So that will be very easy to do, sorting from the smallest to the lowest. You'll be able to do that, as you can see, from the smallest to the lowest. So this is a very important tool that will be necessary working with data. Let's go back to our slide, and then continue with the presentation. So the scraper tool, like I said, also very necessary. Some of the things not to do when you are working with data in Excel, for instance, is that usually I advise that which is also part of what we talked about in the previous session about cleaning data and make sure the data is clean to be used. You would have to, it's recommended that you do not add special signs such as percentages to your values column, so that you can have a very accurate projection of whatever you are doing, because Excel is very sensitive to very minute details. For instance, if you leave double spacing between your values and things like that, it can have an effect on what you are doing. So it's also very necessary to do that. So this will be a proper structure. It's better you keep if it's uniform, it's better you keep the symbol up there in the title part of it than to add the symbol to each of the values in the box. So the other principles that will be necessary for visualization is balance, unity and harmony, and hierarchy. So all these things are things that you try to ensure when you are doing your visualization, a balance in how the icons or whatever text you are using are, a harmony in terms of the colors and how they are arranged, and also hierarchy. If you are using text and you want to display in order of importance, for instance, you have to show them in a certain way. Some have to be bigger, some has to be smaller, so that it shows which ones are priority, which ones highlight the important aspect of whatever you are communicating. The other things are, you may either be showing comparison with your work, or you want to display proportion, or you want to display the relationship between two things, you want to show location, or even a time for certain events. So let's take an example. And like I said earlier, we'll be using data wrapper. We'll be using Flourish for today's demonstration. So Flourish is also a web-based application. Also, just like Canva, it has a lot of samples or a lot of templates you can take and play with. The slight difference between data wrapper and Canva is that Canva has to do a lot with visuals. Even though it has options for chat as well, it's broadly for a lot of visuals. And the Flourish Studio, for instance, has to do with a lot of data, quantitative data. So you put in the figures, then it's able to show you how the visualization should look. So let's go to the Flourish Studio, which is a web-based application, and then try that for our visualization. So the website for that, let me just switch my screen. The website for that is flourish.studio. Flourish.studio. I have already signed in, so it would be a bit easy to switch to that. So this is how it essentially looks like when you open the Flourish.studio website. So let me just sign in with my Gmail. When you sign in with your Gmail, this is how the Flourish platform or the background looks like. It gives you a lot of templates. So when you have to do a presentation, you simply come to new visualization. And at new visualization, it gives you a broad list of templates that you can take and then play around with. So as you can see, all these are displayed. All these are displayed that you can take and then work with. So it depends on what you want to do, whether it's, so you essentially have to determine. There are a lot of options for pies, there are bar graphs, there are also maps that are displayed down here. There are bubble charts that you can also use. You can use the scatter plot as well. And all these things are available if you want to do your visualization. So based on what information you put in or what you believe works best for you, you choose that template. So for today's visualization, let's take the first one, which is a bar chart. Let's take a bar chart and see how it works. This is the proportional bar chart. So we would have to do a bit of manipulation for it to take the form of a very simple bar chart. And then we'll be using some set of data. We'll be using some set of data for this particular one. Using some set of data for this particular one. Right, let's see. Okay, so let's wait for the preview. So essentially, when you open your Playboard, as I'll call it, there are two aspects of it. We have the preview aspect of it, and then we have the data part of it. So the data part is where you input every data in terms of the values that you have. And then the preview aspect allows you to just look at how it's displayed. So let me change this to a simple bar chart. Okay, so this is a simple bar chart that we can use for our example. Okay, so if you switch to the data part, what you have here is that you have different columns displayed, column 1 to 4, and then you have the first column, which is column A for years. So this is a dummy data that was already generated to produce this one. So in our case, we want to pick the data that I used for the initial example. So let's, for instance, take, let's say the recent reports. Transparency International released a report that had to do with corruption perception in the country and how different countries have fared over the last decade. How has all these things been displayed? So I already have some data that I've put in my Excel sheet already. So I'll just copy that. It looks like that cannot be, I'm not displaying that, but the second part is that we are going to copy that information, each of the country, and then we can paste it directly into our data board. So I'm just deleting all these here. Then I highlight just a part of it and then just Control V, that's a shortcut for pasting. And then that is the data as highlighted. So these are just at random, some countries that I picked from the report to highlight for the purpose of this presentation. So we have Ghana, Tunisia, South Africa, Benin, Denmark, Sweden, Chile, USA, Portugal, India, and then Colombia. And let me say that the scraper tool also works the same way. You can copy something from the scraper tool and then paste it directly in the Flourish Studio, the data part of it, and it also works perfectly. So in our case, let's see how this has displayed. So, I mean, this is just a dummy data that has been put in. So what has happened is that Flourish Studio has displayed them in a particular order. All these visualizations are displayed in a particular order. So what we are going to do, as we can see, we can realize that some of the countries are missing, and then we also have too much space in between them. So there are some controls that you have to play with to have your items displayed well. So one is that we have this part where it says values. So the values are those quantitative data that corresponds with your first column, that is the label. So if the label here, let me just change this one to double click and then change this to countries. And then Transparency International score. So the countries and then the score. So we realize, like I said, not everything is displaying here. So it means that there is a problem with our data. So we have to come back to the control board. Then what we do is that we would want to change this and indicate to the controls that all my values are in just column B. All my values are in just column B. So the table is away. As you can see, previously it was this way. And then we couldn't have everything displaying. But once I signal to the controls that all my values are in column B, as you can see from the preview, everything has been rearranged, and then we have everything in order displaying here. And just to go back a little, I said something about interactive data. So this, as you have here, is what we'll call an interactive data, because as I hover the cursor around the bar, I get further information. The numbers are displayed here. So I know that this is Colombia and the score is 39. This is 40, India is 40, Chile is 67, Sweden is 85. So these are, this is a data that is interactive. I can decide to save this as an image and it will not be interactive anymore. So let's just play a bit more with our controls. So we can decide to switch a few things here. Let's come back to our preview. So this is what we have for all the countries that are stated. I think there are 12 in number. We want to label our data, for instance. So our header, you come to our header. These are all items that you can change to manipulate the display we have here. So if you come to our header, for instance, we can give titles of each of the visualization we are working on. So let's just title this Transparency International CPI Scores, and then enter. So we have that as our title for the title for our visualization. We can decide to center it, or we can decide to align it to the left. But I choose to align it to the we can decide to align it to the right, but I decide to align it to the left. And then we can decide to have a subtitle and name it countries and scores. Then have that under there. As if you are referring to the presentation, I talked about hierarchies, for instance. So you realize that it is displayed here. This is the main thing, and this is just a subtitle of the work we've done. So that would be for the header or the title for our visualization. The other part will be the footer. The footer usually is reserved for if you want to give credit, and it's always advised that whatever visualization you are putting in, you give credit to where you source the data from, except you are doing that, you collected the data by yourself. In this case, this information is from Transparency International. So we can say Transparency International. We'll have that displayed under our presentation. So as you can see, that is displayed here, Transparency International. We can decide to add a link to it so that people can easily click on that and go onto the website. So this is the website for Transparency International, and they are the link to the 2021 report. So I can copy the link here and then put it down in the URL column. So what this does is that it makes this link clickable. So someone can easily click on this link, and then the person is directed straight to the website where the data was sourced from. Okay, so we can also embed images to this particular visualization, but I usually like working with a very plain background, very clear background, so I wouldn't do that. And then let's see whether we can do something about the bars. Let's see if we can increase the height. Again, you can do this to suit your style, the style you want to use. I want to reduce the spacing by 0.5. Again, let's see the opacity of the bars. Let me do that to 0.5. So as you can see, it looks a bit pale. You can increase to 0.9. It's deeper, so maybe you prefer this way. So these are all controls that you can manipulate to change your visualization, especially with a simple bar graph like this. Now let's try to manipulate the color. So Flourish gives you different examples of color palettes that you can use for your work. So I'm switching the palette to a different color so that we can use other options. This is also one. We can decide to use others as well. So that is it for the colors. You can play with this, choose one that you believe best fits the work you want to do. So if we are changing the colors by the rows, for instance, it has labeled all the countries and their respective corresponding colors are displayed here. So I think this is a bit more colorful, so maybe a bit more attractive to most people. So you can just play with them and see one that works for you, then you can stick with that as well. So if I decide to, in the sorting mode, I can decide to sort it by data sheet. So sorting by data sheet, what that means is that it is sorting it by how I have listed it here. So we have Colombia starting and then India. So it starts from the bottom. Colombia, India, Portugal, just as it's displayed here in the reverse order. I can decide to sort it by the value. So by values means that it's going to display from the highest to the lowest. So you will see from our data that the highest in this case is Denmark, which is 88 on the Transparency International score. So it's starting, this particular one is starting with Denmark, Sweden, USA, Chile, and then it comes down. If I want to sort by label, that means that it's going to display based on the countries, for instance. So as you can see, it's starting in alphabetical order, but in reverse order, starting with the US and then Tunisia. But if you are starting from below, we have Benin, Chile, Colombia, Denmark, Ghana, then it goes on and on. So you can decide which way you want to sort it. So all these ways, it makes it very easy. So that's one of the helpful things about Flourish Studio. So you can easily manipulate it to see which one that suits your style. Just by a click of a button, it changes it to suit your style. So one of the very important functionalities also about Flourish Studio is that if we go ahead with this particular one, a simple bar chart, and we realize that it doesn't seem to work for this particular data, and therefore we want to change it into something that looks like a pie, we can easily come here, up here to the chart type, and then click to trigger the drop-down menu. And then from here, we can click on, let's see, do not charts. Let's see how this will display. So as you can see, just by clicking, it has changed it to a donut style that we can easily see. So if this works best, although I don't believe that this a donut style works best, this is just to demonstrate that just by a click of a button, you can easily change your work if you feel that it's not communicating, or it doesn't best communicate what you want to put out. So in this manner, you would see that it has all the countries displayed with a share. And from I'll make reference again to our previous discussion. From our previous discussion, we said using the donut or a pie would be useful when we are doing something that has to do with a percentage or a share of something, a whole. So in this particular case, Transparency International, the scores are not, the scores of the individual countries is not a part of a whole something. So we can't say we cannot use a donut or a pie to represent that. Let's see whether a line graph would work. So let's try a line chart. Just by clicking this, what we have. So I mean, it makes everything simple. So you have Ghana here, Tunisia, South Africa, Benin, Denmark, and all that. Again, I do not think that a line graph is the best way to display this, but this is also useful for changing if you feel that this is not going to work for you. So these are ways that you can change your visualization to suit the style that you want. Let's try another example. But before that, let me just say that if this is our final product, we've put in our source, which we're able to do at the footer side. We've put in our heading, which we're able to do at the header part of it. We have been able to, in the case of where we're using a simple bar graph, in that case, we were able to change the colors by changing the color palettes. And then we're also able to sort, let's say we want to sort by value. If we are done with all this and you want to save it, with Flourish Studio, what you have to do is you have to click on export and publish, and then it triggers another menu which says publish to share and then embed, or you can decide to download as an image. So if we decide to download as an image, if the item is downloaded, and then you can easily collect it. Let's say example, we name it example, and then the size of our information, the size of the workboard is correct. You can decide to save it in PNG or JPEG or SVG as well. I decide to save it in JPEG, this particular one. So you simply click on download, and then it automatically downloads onto your local computer. The other option, which is one of the advantages of online applications like Flourish, is that if you click on, if you have our download is complete, if you have a website where you want to click the HTML, you want to download the HTML link, you can have that as well. You can also click and publish, and then it says, do you want the project to be shared? It says the project will be published to its own page where you and others can see. Okay, so publish, so we can decide to publish. So it will take a few seconds. Since it's published, this particular embedded code would be, it's a code that you can copy and then embed on your website. So you can easily embed this on your website, and then it displays directly on your website, especially if you are running a news website. If you display on your website, it shows exactly as it shows here. It will display exactly as it shows here. And when your users hover their mouse around any of these bars, it gives them that extra information or that extra detail that they need. So the helpful thing about this is that if 2 weeks later, I realized that I got the data for South Africa wrong, and I come back to South Africa and I change it to say 55, it automatically reflects on the website where I captured this information. But in the case of an image which I have downloaded here, what it means is that I'm going to have exactly what I downloaded. So this is the static version. This is an image. There's nothing you can do about it. If there's an error, you would have to take down the whole thing and then do the correction before you re-upload it. So that would be for the static part of it. But if you embed this on your website, it will be very interactive that you can work with. So let me go back, and as we've exported this, so I'm sure from this session, you've learned how to put in your data as quantitative data. You have your value, set of value for where you put in your label. It can be countries, or it can be names of people. It can be whatever label it is. Then your other column will be for the values. So one will wonder that what about if the values are 2? So in this case, let's say that I'm looking at the report talked about scores and also something else. So if the report talked about scores and something else, Flourish Studio gives you a lot of other columns. You can add a few more columns to it. So let's say we also have other scores. So let's say this is TI scores. Let's say there is another organization called Corruption Watch. Corruption Watch also has another metric. And let me just take random data. And in its own ranking, it did a 10, 20, 15, 14, 22, 19. I'm just using random data for this particular one. So and then let's say there's another organization called Anti-Corruption Clock. And then they also have a ranking where it's 30, 22, 22, 10, 5. Let's see. So let's say these are 3 different columns, and all these are values that are relevant for the work we are doing. So in this case, what I will do is that, like I said, you come back to your control and then indicate to the control that my values are from column B to column D. So what we do is we already have our B here, so B to D. As you can see, these are highlighted. So let's come to our preview and see how it looks. So as you can see, it has the information from our TI score. It has the score for Corruption Watch, and they also have anti-corruption clock. for all these three for Sweden, all these three for Chile, all these three for Denmark. So that is how you can manipulate the data. If we decide that we are taking it off, we just want just for B and C, we can change it to just B and C, and then again, we have it limited to just those two. So that will be for it. So you can add more columns by right-clicking one of the columns and then say insert column to the left or to the right. So in this case, you've added to the left, and then we can add more things. You can add other data to display what you want to communicate. So that will be for this particular one, which is a simple bar chart. I'll just move on to another example, which will be my last example, and then I'll bring a close to this session. So let's just go back to the home page for the Flourish Studio. And remember that you have to sign in. You have to sign up first with your Gmail account to have access to it. So you come to, as usual, new visualization, and then you have to identify what you want to display and see which visualization works best for you. Let's just give it a few seconds to load the templates. Then we can select one that best works for us. So these are maps that we can use. Let's try this map. We've not done an example with a map. Let's try this map and see how it looks. Okay, so this is a projection map for, I think, Africa. And remember, we have the preview part and the data part. The data is where you put in everything that is going to reflect at the front end to show what exactly you want to communicate. So it's very important that you get, get your data ready and then your preview. So in this case, it already has the template displayed there, and it's showing all these different countries and how they are represented. So this is also very important if you want to do something that has to do with Africa, and then displaying the map. So in this case, you realize that the geometry is A, that's where it has the piece of the continent, an icon, and then the name of the country is in B. The value, we'll have to give value to it. So let me just say that I want to give some values here. So let's say population, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 8 million, 7, 3, 5, 7, 6. No, so let's just use this example. Let me just, for the purpose of this presentation, let me just delete the rest. You just highlight and then you delete. Highlight all this. I just want us to be limited to the data we use for the work. Okay, so let's try and put in some values and see if it will change anything. And let's indicate to the controls that our values are in column I. Our values are in column I. So as you can see, it has limited the map to show just for column I. So this is Democratic Republic of Algeria, population, and let me just say all population in millions. So just a dummy information. So 1 million, we have Chad, 6 million, we have Cameroon, 3 million. So it displays just like that. So if you want to limit to West Africa, for instance, if we add the full data, you just limit it to West Africa, and then you can indicate the controls where your values are. If you are doing something about, let's say, poverty levels, or you are doing something about intervention or foreign aid, of foreign remittances, cash inflows, and it has to do with countries. You can use the option of the map, and then you indicate the geometry, you indicate the formal name, and then you indicate the map where the values are. I can decide, let's just try GDP in millions for each of the country as well. And then say, for instance, 10, 15, 10, 14, 20, 55, 33, 20, 10, 19, 18, 15. Okay, and let's indicate to the controls that we do not want to highlight population, but we want to highlight column J, which is GDP in millions, in $1 million. So as you can see, if we come back and click here, that is displayed at GDP. If we want to show the controls that is I to J, we want the two displayed. Let's see how that would show. Means that, as a matter of fact, it is only going to choose one of those two variables. So we have to stick to just one of those columns. In this case, J, and then we have it displayed there. So this will be our second example, and let's see. Let me just display the other options that are available so that you can try in the subsequent presentation. And so these are other maps. We have Argentina, we have Australia, we have Brazil, we have Europe, we have the department in France, we have the district in Germany. I think Flourish is gradually allowing people to upload their own map that they can manipulate for whatever visualization they want to do. We have UK regions, we have African countries, Argentina department, provinces. So we've tried the bar chart, and then we've seen how we can convert that easily to a donut chart, or how we can do a line graph with that. And then we've also looked at working around with maps to put in, especially when you're dealing with continents and some specific countries as well. So that would be it. There are other options that you can try on your own, just play with them. And like we said,
hello, Jonas.
Hi.
And please, yes. And so if you could be wrapping up and looking at our time.
Certainly. So like I said, another example, the other things from our previous presentation, like we said, is that a lot of these things has to do with a lot of practice. So a lot of practice would mean that you'll be able to explore all the other examples, including the 3D map, which is very, very interesting to use and also very, very visually appealing to use. So all these are examples that can be used for your visualization. So that will be the end of my presentation for today. And maybe we just take one or two questions for the sake of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonas. An insightful presentation, and today has to do with more of practicals. And thank you for introducing us to some of these resources we can use for our data visualizations. And so coming here, I'm going over to our YouTube channel. And so there are so many messages on from people thanking you for this presentation. And this is coming in from Linda. She says, I like working with Canva. Great tool for creating attractive visuals. Thank you, Linda, for your comments. And so I'll be expecting your questions, and kindly type in your questions, or if you want clarification, Jonas is here to help you with that. And okay, so there are more comments on your presentation. People are excited about what you are teaching. And so Jonas, since this is a presentation and we'll be wrapping up soon, how long can one learn how to visualize the data? Is it a difficult step, or is it an easy one?
I think I would have said it's difficult, but with the online tools, they are very easy to work with, especially when you have the template already set out and you only have to manipulate. I think that I recommend starting out with that. If you start out with that and you get to a point where you are not getting the room to customize a lot, then it means you'll be forced to use the other tools where you can do a lot of the customization on that you want. But I think the online tools are a good starting place, and they make it very, very easy. It wouldn't take a lot of time to do that.
Thank you. And so I'm tempted to think that Canva should be one of the simplest tools to start with.
Yes,
I'm right.
Yes, I wouldn't want to judge, rate any of them, but I think Canva is equally good. Like I said, Canva would be good if you are not working with heavy data, for instance. I wouldn't recommend Canva if you are working with heavy data that has to do with, let's say, about 20 years data, for instance. I wouldn't recommend using Canva. I think there are other better tools like Flores that can help you do that. If what you are doing has to do with a lot of visuals, a lot of small icons and just a little text, I think Canva is very good for that. Gives you a lot of, but if the data is heavy, in terms of quantitative data is heavy, I don't think Canva will be the best to use.
Thank you for the answer. And so one last question. And so with all these visualizations that you have done, I believe that maybe someone is here who is joining us for the very first time, hasn't followed the previous discussions we've had on data visualization. Can you briefly highlight why data visualization is important and who can use data visualization? And why should we use data visualization?
So everyone can visualize data because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So if you're able to visualize data, it's able to communicate faster, communicate better, and people are able to really understand and they're able to get a sense of what you are communicating than writing a full text or some paragraphs for people to read before they can understand. Anyone can do it. If you have the right tools and you have the accurate data, anyone can do it. And it's very easy to start with platforms like Canva, like PictoChart, like Venngage, so many of them. They are good ways to start. You can visualize almost anything to communicate better with people.
Thank you very much for your answer, Jonas, and thank you all who have joined us and stayed with us during this discussion. And so as Jonas said early on when he was concluding his presentation, it all has to do with practice. And so don't limit yourself. Don't think you cannot do this. You have to practice and you have to know how best you can use these tools to enable in your work or in your studies. And so thank you so much, Jonas, for making time to join us today and to share your knowledge. I think, Jonas, you can follow him on social media, on Facebook, Jonas Nyabo, and also on Twitter if you have further questions to ask. And so this has been a wonderful discussion. And for those of us who didn't join early on, I made mention of the ELibrary resource, and that's the ELibrary USA, which you could use for all your materials for reading, dissertations. And so the link will be shared again for you to have access. And this concludes our program. So please follow us on our Facebook page and on Twitter as well at US Embassy Ghana for more virtual programs that will come your way. Next week, we're going to have a continuation of the topic, how you can be hacked through PDFs, images, and links. And so do make sure that you are updated by seeing the posts on our social media pages, and so you can learn and enlighten yourself. So please stay safe and continue to ensure all protocols due to the COVID situation. And if you are yet to get your vaccination, please do so. This has been a wonderful time. Thank you for staying with us. Do enjoy a wonderful Friday. Bye.